You won't last 2 days without me." The sentence landed heavy in the air, sharp and final as the sun turned his back. The old man did not beg. He did not shout. He only tightened his grip on the worn bag in his hand as the door closed behind the one person he trusted most. The room felt smaller. The silence felt louder than any insult. The old man stood there, thin shoulders straight, eyes calm but deep. His hair was silver, neatly combed, though his jacket was old and faded. His hands were rough, marked by years of work and sacrifice. People who passed by him that day barely noticed him. To them, he was just another forgotten father, another quiet man left behind. No one saw the storm of memories behind his steady eyes. He stepped outside slowly, the cold air brushing his skin. The city moved fast around him. Cars rushed past. People laughed into their phones. Life did not pause for abandoned men. He found a bench near the bus station and sat down, placing the bag beside him. Inside were a few clothes, a folded photo, and something else. Something no one knew about, not even his son. Once, long ago, this man had been strong enough to carry others on his back through fire and fear. Once, he had been the one people depended on to survive. Now, he was told he could not last 2 days alone. His name was Daniel Hart. Daniel's story did not begin on that bench. It began decades earlier, in a place filled with dust, sweat, and the smell of metal and smoke. He had been young then. His back was straight, his steps fast, his heart full of duty. He had served his country quietly, without pride or complaint. He learned early how to stay silent when things hurt. Silence kept others calm. Silence kept people alive. In those years, Daniel learned the weight of responsibility. He learned what it meant to lose friends in seconds. He remembered the sound of boots on hard ground, the heat of the sun pressing down, the taste of dry air in his mouth. He remembered holding a wounded friend, whispering comfort, while knowing there was no saving him. Those moments carved deep lines into his soul. When he came home, there were no parades, no applause, just a thin envelope, a handshake, and the quiet expectation to move on. He did. He worked long hours. He raised his son alone after his wife passed away from illness too soon. He cooked meals, fixed broken things, and sat by hospital beds. He never spoke of his service. He never spoke of the nightmares that still woke him some nights, soaked in sweat, heart racing. His son grew up strong, confident, and loud. Daniel was proud of him. He believed that providing silently was enough. He believed love did not need words. He believed endurance was invisible, but powerful. Years passed. Daniel's body weakened, but his habits stayed the same. He woke early. He kept things clean. He spoke only when needed. When his health declined, his son offered help, but it came with impatience. Bills, time, and effort became heavy burdens in his son's eyes. That day, when the argument came, it came fast. Frustration spilled out. Accusations followed, then the words that cut deepest. "You won't last 2 days without me." The son left, convinced he had spoken the truth. Daniel sat on the bench now, watching the sky fade from blue to gray. Hunger tugged at him, but he ignored it. Pain throbbed in his knees, but he shifted quietly. People walked by without a glance. Some looked at him with pity, others with annoyance. No one stopped. A bus station worker eventually approached him, telling him he could not sleep there. Daniel nodded, stood slowly, and apologized. His voice was calm, respectful. He walked away without complaint. That night, Daniel found shelter under a small overhang near an old building. The ground was cold. The air smelled of rain and stone. He leaned against the wall, closed his eyes, and breathed steadily. He had slept in worse places. He had endured worse nights. The next morning, he washed his face in a public restroom. His reflection stared back at him. Tired? Yes. Broken? No. He adjusted his jacket and stepped back into the world. Days passed like this. One day, then another. Each step tested him. Each moment reminded him of his age, but also of his strength. He ate little. He spoke even less. He helped where he could, holding doors, picking up dropped items, small acts of dignity that no one thanked him for. On the second evening, something happened. Daniel collapsed near the steps of a public building. His vision blurred. His chest tightened. People gathered but kept their distance. Some filmed. Some whispered. A few shook their heads and walked away. No one knew who he was. No one knew what he carried inside. An ambulance arrived. Paramedics lifted him carefully. One of them noticed the way Daniel's hand clutched his bag, even as he drifted in and out of awareness. Inside the hospital, doctors worked quickly. They asked questions. Daniel answered softly. As they searched his belongings for identification, they found the folded photo. A younger Daniel stood with a group of men, arms around each other, faces serious. On the back were names. Some crossed out, some circled. They also found a small metal badge, worn smooth with age. It carried markings most people would not recognize. But one nurse did. Her posture changed when she saw it. Her voice softened. Daniel Hart was not just an old man. The quiet began to shift. Phone calls were made. Doors opened that rarely opened for anyone. A man in a clean suit arrived, his expression unreadable. He spoke with the doctor in low tones. More people came. They did not rush. They did not speak loudly. But their presence filled the room. Daniel woke later, confused. He saw unfamiliar faces. He tried to sit up, apologizing for the trouble. A man gently told him to rest. Word traveled quietly. Not through news. Not through shouting. Through respect. Daniel had once saved lives during a moment that never made headlines. He had led others through danger when communication failed. His decisions had protected people who went on to build families, careers, futures. Some of those people were now in positions of influence. They remembered him. By the next day, the hospital hallway was lined with people, standing silently. Men and women of all ages. Some wore uniforms. Some wore simple clothes. They stood with heads bowed, not for attention, but for honor. Daniel's son arrived late, annoyed and worried. He pushed through the crowd, confused by the silence. When he saw his father in the bed, weak but calm, guilt crept into his chest. A man approached him quietly and asked if he was Daniel Hart's son. When he nodded, the man spoke words that felt heavier than any shout. Your father lasted longer than most of us ever could. The son looked around. He saw the faces, the respect, the quiet strength in the room. He realized how little he had known. Daniel opened his eyes and saw his son standing there, tears forming. Daniel did not accuse him. He did not remind him of the words spoken. He only reached out his hand. Silence said everything. One by one, people stepped forward, placing their hands over their hearts. No speeches. No applause. Just presence. Daniel was discharged days later. He did not ask for recognition. He declined interviews. He returned to a simple life. But something had changed. His son moved slower now. He listened more. He spoke with care. He learned that strength does not always announce itself. That some heroes carry their stories quietly. One line echoed in the son's mind, spoken by a stranger in that hallway. True strength does not demand to be seen. It simply stands when others fall. Daniel went on to live peacefully. He walked each morning. He fed birds in the park. He smiled more. Not because the world had changed, but because he no longer carried the weight alone. The city never knew his name, but it felt his impact in ways it would never understand. And somewhere, deep inside, a lesson remained. Never measure someone's worth by how loud they are. Some of the strongest souls survive in silence. If this story moved you, share where you're watching from. Tell us what silent strength means to you. And subscribe for more stories that honor the heroes who never ask to be seen.